of time on this because I think that a lot of people struggle with how do I know what is the right deal structure, what's the right creative strategy that I should use on this property or that property? How do I know when to use subject to? How do I know when to do a mix of subject to and seller finance? How do I know when to go cash? Kind of those questions, right? And so I built out a little bit of a kind of like a decision tree that we use in our business to make those decisions, but also just some tips on kind of how to negotiate some the numbers down as far as getting a good price and getting good terms. Because I think that's kind of a mistake that I made when I first started. So let me go ahead and pull this up real quick. Also, Griffin, I got to talk to you about that deal. Matt texted me. So,
Okay.
uh,
Good or
but
bad?
I can't tell yet.
Okay.
We'll figure it out. I don't, he said something about a contract, but I'm not sure if that means like they actually signed or if he just had one that he was going to send to him. So
Okay.
we'll see. Does anybody know how to share a presentation? Oh, there you go. Boom. I should not be running this. This is not good. All right. Let's go into presenter view. This is cool. That is not it, y'all. All right. I'm just going to go here. So this is all about what to do with a lead when you don't know how to structure it. So first thing is figuring out how do you know if you have a motivated seller? So generally, motivated sellers fall into one of these five categories. I think it's like 80% of sellers fall into this category. One is financial distress. So this could be like foreclosure. Maybe they have debt they need to pay off. Like something's happening where like they need the money in the next 30, 60, 90 days, something like that. Okay. Second thing would be like a health problem. Like a lot of people run into serious medical debt. Like they have someone that gets ill, somebody that has a disability, somebody that can't go up a flight of stairs, and so they decide they need to move really quickly. Like whatever it is, like it could be one of those things. A big one is divorce. If you've been doing this long enough, like you see, divorce is a huge, huge, huge motivation. Obviously, most people don't want to live in the same house with the person they're currently divorcing. Fourth thing is inheritance or probate. This is a really big one because I think a lot of times when you inherit a property, people go towards um like they're greedy and they're just like, oh, I just want to really maximize this. But then there's also some people that like are really just going through it and like the house is the last thing they want to even think about. And they're like, hey, I just want to get this property sold. Like I'm not attached to it. I just want to make 10, 15 grand here. And like honestly, that would be just like free money. Like they're not so attached. It's not something they've been in for 20 years, right? Last thing is tired landlord. And even better is like when some of these are kind of stacked, which you'll kind of see. Okay. So the second signal I would say on how you know you have a motivated seller is when you ask what they're hoping to walk away with and they're willing to discount from like the Zestimate or their asking price that was initially their asking price, right? Because if you have somebody that you ask their price and they're like, and you're like, hey, can you do any better than that? And they're like, no. It's like, okay, this person's like probably not super motivated. Does everybody agree with that? At least like it's like, okay, cool. So here's kind of like the golden rule, I would say, in our business is like we always negotiate price first, and then only after that we switch to creative terms. Okay. So we don't throw out like multiple options up front. So we're not saying, hey, Alex, I can give you a cash offer for 100, but I could also give you this subject to offer where I give you 150. And then I could do a novation where I could list it for you and you can make 40 on it. Right? We don't do that. I think it's kind of overwhelming and I think it kind of puts you in a spot where yeah, it's not very fluid, is all I'm trying to say in the conversation. Then you get a lot of I got to think about it. That's like when you get that a ton. Okay. Second thing is you do want to use emotion when you're talking, right? You want to pull out that emotion and figure out like what is their pain point. But also to some degree, it's important to be able to use numbers in a way where you can logically show them like, hey, here's why your number like doesn't make sense, like in a really like kind way. Instead of just like low balling, like, hey, I know you want 300, but I'll give you 175. Like that's a huge jump. And like, has anyone on this call ever felt like really uncomfortable making an offer because like it's so low that you're like, oh my gosh, I really don't want to make this.
Yeah, that was
This
me this morning.
it sucks. It's not fun, right? So I'm
Yeah.
gonna kind of go through a way of doing it where maybe you don't have to experience that level of stress. Okay. Um, Last thing is that it's much easier to switch to creative terms when you haven't made like a formal offer yet. Like, here's my cash offer. You're just working with their numbers. So you're asking them, like, what are you hoping to walk away with? And then I'll show in a second kind of how that works. Okay. So the big thing is you want to stop talking in terms of like purchase price. Like, I think that's kind of a big mistake. So, um, when you're talking to a seller, right? Like that's kind of just like like I wrote this out, it's kind of like an ego number for them. Like they're like, "Oh, I got my 200." Like that's just kind of the number. Versus generally in these scenarios when someone's motivated, the house is not a blessing, it's what? It's usually their biggest obstacle that's keeping them from doing XYZ, like whatever it is they want to do, or getting access to the money quickly, whatever it is. So you need to focus on like what that walkaway money actually does for them versus just, hey, here's a purchase price, take it or leave it. Does that part make sense? I think it's really important to break this up. Okay, so first question, we want to separate the mortgage from their walkaway money. So it'd be something like, hey, Dennis, so approximately, if we were to buy the house, approximately how much is left on the loan that we would need to take care of? Okay, like that's a simple question. And when you ask it that way, like you're not going to get a lot of pushback because you're just confident. It's like, hey, just approximately how much? Like just ballpark. Now, notice I didn't say pay off. Did anyone notice that? What did I say? We need to take care of. Kind of plants the seed of like later on down the line, I didn't say I was going to pay it off. It's like we may take care of this, which may mean taking over payments. It may be paying it off, right? Second thing is, okay, so after the mortgage, obviously we're going to buy it as is. Obviously, we can close on the date of your choice. Like whatever value you bring to them. Like I guess like how much are you hoping to walk away with? This is, your cash at closing that's in your pocket. Like how much are you hoping for? That's the question, right? So now you get a specific number. It's like, hey, I want to walk with $20,000. Like what hits harder? A 200K purchase price or hey, you're going to have 20,000 in your bank account in 2 weeks? Like emotionally for that person, which one hits harder? Like that's what we got to kind of start thinking about, okay? Then we want to slowly whittle that number down if we feel like we need to, right? So like if let's say you need the walkaway number to be at 20 and they're at 30, okay? You're going to give them something. So this is negotiation. It's not lowball offer, take it or leave it. It's, hey, I mean, we are buying it as is. We're going to be doing the roof. We're going to be doing the HVAC. Like, we're providing some value here. I mean, is 30,000 the least that you would take? And just ask that question and just like press pause. I mean, Griffin had this today. He just got a verbal agreement on one, like right before this, where he got him down and like did a great job with that without ever making an offer. So it happens every day. But you have to make sure you have these like little things in your back pocket that you can pull out. Like what's the value that you bring in exchange for getting a lower price? Okay. Next, what if the seller wants retail? Has anybody here ever had like a seller say like I just want what my house is worth or this estimate or something like that? We've all had that. For us, generally, we kind of just pull away hard. It's like, hey, sounds like you're really wanting like more of a retail price. And when it's fixed up, it's probably worth that, like what you're saying. So if you're wanting close to that, I'd probably just list it with a realtor. So like, is there anything like keeping you from going in that direction? And just ask them. And then if they say, well, we were kind of trying to avoid that, but like, why is that though? Like, dig into it. Oh, well, it's because I didn't want to do X, Y, Z, Z, Z. Okay, so like avoiding doing those things, like that's important to you. Yes. Okay, so if we could do that, like that would help make the process a little bit easier. Of course. Okay, so like I guess like since we're doing those things, like is 300,000 the least you would take? Like does everyone see how this like kind of circles back? Like that's like a real conversation, okay? Second option, if someone's really far off, like let's say you need to be at 200K and they're like I need at least $300,000, right? We want to walk them through the math without making them feel dumb because they're not dumb. They just don't, they may not understand where we're coming from. Right. So we want to like sit on the same side as the table, like of the table with them and be like, okay, here's kind of the numbers for us. And if it doesn't make sense, that's okay. So it's something like this. Hey, Alex, like how much were you hoping to walk away with? And let's say you say 300 grand. Okay. I go, so, okay, Alex, it sounds like you're kind of wanting retail price. I mean, when it's fixed up, it's probably worth 300. So I can see your position there, right? Validate. If you're wanting close to that, I'd probably just list it with a realtor. Like, is there anything keeping you from going that direction? He gives something, right? We dig deeper. And then from there, maybe we get to the point where he's like, no, I really want to work with an investor. So then I'm going to say, okay, this is option two. So Alex, like at 300, like there's no way I could make that work. Like I'm just going to shoot him straight. But what I could do if it's helpful is maybe we can kind of go over the numbers together just to kind of like talk through roughly where we need to be. Like, would that help if we did that? Yeah, yeah, that would be fine. Okay, cool. So then I'm going to go through the numbers. So I'm going to say, hey, Alex, so you said $300,000, and obviously you're only going to agree with this after repair value, right? What it's worth once it's fixed up, if you actually agree with it, right? So like if he's way off, like you need to like give him some comps and be like, hey, I think this is a little bit off. Right, but let's just say Alex is right because usually this estimate's pretty close. Okay, so we have that $300,000, Alex. So the first thing we got to think about when we buy the property is we're going to list it with a realtor when we sell it. Okay, so our realtor is going to cost us 6%. So we have the 6%, and then when we go to sell it, we're also going to have closing cost. So let's call it another 2%. Okay, so what you're going to do is literally while you're talking to them, this is exactly what I do. You're going to type in $300,000, and you can even practice this on your phone if you want. $300,000, and you're going to multiply it by what? There's the 6% plus the 2%. So what is that? 8% total, right? So you're going to multiply that by 0.92 because that takes 8% off of 300. Does that part make sense so far? So you're going to go 0.92. That brings us to $276,000. Did everyone get that number? Hopefully. Okay, cool. So $276,000. Okay. Does that part make sense so far, Alex? Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. And keep in mind, Alex, this is the same position that you're in as well. Like if you go list this with a realtor, you're gonna have the same cost as me. Oh yeah, I totally understand that. Okay, cool. All of this is reasonable so far. Like we're not like super off the edge, right? Okay, and Alex, really the next thing we have to think about with our business is we really don't use our own money. We borrow from other lenders, which is pretty expensive. We also have taxes, we have insurance, we have utilities. I would say in general, it's going to cost us around 7% of the purchase price in all of those costs combined. So I'm going to take 7% off the top. Can anyone put in the chat what I'd have to multiply this 276 by? We're doing math. Uh-oh. Come on. 0.93. Alex, math
It's
wizard.
a
Let's
net
go.
255.
Yeah, basically 255. Okay, so that brings us to 255. Now, the last thing we need to think about, Alex, is we have to think about the repairs that we talked about. So you mentioned there's a new roof that we need to do. Let's call it, and then I would ask them, have you gotten any quotes for the roof? Oh, well, they said it's going to cost 12,000. Okay, so we'll go with your number, 12,000. Is that it? Yeah, that's it. Okay. So that brings us to 244. Does everyone understand how we got to this number so far? It's really important. So now what I'm going to do after all of that, I'm going to say, okay, so Alex, what this number represents is this is like our break even number. So if I bought it at 244, I wouldn't necessarily lose any money if everything goes well, but I also wouldn't make any money. And I'm sure you understand, as an investor, we have to make some kind of gain, right? Does that make sense? Oh, I totally get that. And I want y'all to make money, right? That's what you're going to get. And then you say, okay, so I guess understanding like the numbers from our perspective, and keep in mind, I want you to get what you need out of it too. Like we have to be below that to make money. So how much are you really needing at closing for us to get this done for you? That's the conversation. That's way easier to me than making a lowball offer and being like, oh my gosh. Because it's reasonable. Like you're not being like, here you go, I'm $100,000 off of what you wanted. It's like you're slowly breaking it down. Now, sometimes you're gonna get people just right off the bat and say, hey, that's just too low, I can't do it. And that's fine. Like that's just not your person, most likely. Unless there's a creative way to do it, which we can talk about in a second. Sometimes you're gonna get someone that says, well, I could be 5 grand below that 244. And it's like, okay, like that's probably not good enough for a cash offer, right? And some people will really give you a good price. So, but either way, you're at least like getting them down to a point where they're not stuck at that top end value. And then later on, you can switch to terms in a second. I know that was a lot, so I'm going to kind of press pause there just for a second. Do we have questions on this section? Because this is probably the most complex part of it all. Any thoughts or questions?
Do you get any pushback when you're explaining like the realtor costs, closing costs, holding costs, anything like that? Because I feel like that's probably the most powerful part of the negotiation. Um, what I think it went using the example from earlier went from what 300,000 to 276,
Mm-hmm.
just based on the realtor costs and the closing costs. So it's like, hey, you're already not even pocketing 300 grand. You're taking home 276 minus whatever your mortgage is. Do you?
Yeah. I mean, you do get pushback from time to time. Um, but it's usually like with somebody that's not probably the person you're going to work with anyways, I would say. And usually I will say the thing that I get pushback on the most is like the repairs. They're like, oh no, it wouldn't cost that much. Or like I got a guy that can do it for this. And so that's why if you notice, I asked like ask them for if they've gotten any quotes. Yeah, that's a great question.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
so that would be like, thanks. Yeah, so repairs is kind of the most because everybody knows a guy who can cut them a deal or something, or they got a cousin who does that type of work.
Uncle Joe's always coming out of the woodwork for sure.
They never
All right,
said
cool.
he did it well.
That's true. They could do it though. That's good. Okay, so here's kind of step four, the decision tree. So once you actually have negotiated down the furthest you can go. So same thing. You give them the break even number. You say, where can you be? They give you a number. You ask them, hey, is that the least you would take? Maybe they come down a little bit. Hey, we're doing this. Is there any more flexibility on that price? There's no more wiggle room. Like you can't see yourself going any lower. See, like you can ask this multiple different ways. But ultimately, they get to their number like, nope, that's it. Okay, now we have a decision to make. Split second decision. Number one, is this a cash deal? Okay. For me in our business, that's like 70% of after repair value minus repairs. Perfect. Path two would be if they have a mortgage, right? Subject to. That's like a more basic level of creative, even though like there's some complexities there, but it's like pretty simple once you get it. Take over the existing mortgage, right? Generally, when you're doing this, you want your cost to get into the deal to be like 10% of the value or less, ideally. There's kind of a couple of reasons for that. Like one, if you want to raise the money from a private lender, generally I kind of see that's like the limit where like if you have to raise $30,000, like you're gonna have to pay interest on that 30 grand. And so like, is it still gonna cash flow as a rental? Like the higher you get up, the harder it is. And then also, if you're going to sell the property on owner financing, like once you've picked it up, generally you're not going to get much more than a 10% down payment. So the goal, like at the end of all that, is to be like into the deal for as little money as possible. Okay, that's why I say 10%. So because you either capture equity in the price, which is the cash deal, or you capture equity in the terms, which would be like the interest rate. Okay, so for example, can someone tell me real quick in the chat? I'm gonna hide it. If we have a house that's for $300,000, what's the most that we probably want to be into the deal for if subject to is the route that we're gonna go?
30K.
30K. Perfect. Is any questions on that? Okay, cool. Next thing is hybrid. That's the third. Okay. So this would be you're taking over the existing mortgage and the walkaway number is more than 10%. Okay. So this is how I simplify it because let's say there's that same example that we just used with Griffin, right? $300,000 house. I'll give an example in a minute, but ideally you're breaking up some of that equity or some of that walkaway money into payments over time, like a monthly payment. Okay. Because you want to limit your cash in the deal, right? And hopefully, if it's a rental or you're owner financing it, it pays for itself or gives you some cash flow. And ideally, you take that cash flow and you pay the seller off if there's some kind of remainder that they're just not willing to let go of. Okay. So again, we talked about this. There's equity in the rate sometimes. There's equity maybe in the payment, right? The monthly payment. Also, even like the length of term. So like I've had times where um, I had one deal that I was working one time where it was a seller finance deal. And initially, the seller wanted like a 30-year term standard. Um, but it just kind of didn't work. Even surprisingly, it just like something about it, I think it was the interest rate. And so I suggested doing a 50-year term. And then he was pretty open to it at first. And so that's kind of, we didn't end up doing the deal, but that's an example of like you can move these terms around. It's not all just like standard, right? You can kind of make these things up because it's just a conversation between you and the seller. Okay, let's go through a real example for a second. Property value, 200 grand. Mortgage balance, 160,000. Interest rate, 2.5%, really good rate. The seller wants 10K in walkaway money. The total purchase price is 170,000. Are there any questions on that? Like why the purchase price is 170 or anything like that? Okay. If there are, please don't hesitate to unmute yourself. Cindy's laughing. That's great. Okay, so is this a cash deal? Yes or no? Okay, why is it not a cash deal? What does it need to be?
70% ARV.
Right, exactly. Okay, and we're assuming right now there's no repairs. Okay, so is this a good, maybe a decent sub two deal? What do we think? What makes it a decent sub two deal?
Low interest rate and low walkaway money.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. Julie, did you have something else besides those things, or was that it? Okay, cool. Yeah, so we got a good rate, right? So this is a pretty clean deal. Now, one thing I would recommend, subject to is good for a scenario that we just listed there, where like it's somewhat low equity, it's not good enough for a cash deal. But I will say that most of the deals that we get that we end up flipping, we still get sub two because then we don't have to go raise hard money or private money, right? Because if you can take over that mortgage of 150,000 or something, for example, that 150 is already there. So instead of you having to go raise an additional 150, like literally just take over the existing debt that's right there. It's like the most simple change you can make in your business to like limit the amount that a lack of private capital like keeps you from scaling. Like if you're like, man, I just don't know how to raise capital. It's like, well, maybe that's the wrong question. Maybe it's like, how can I take over more existing payments? Like maybe that's another question you could ask. Right? So if you feel stuck and you're like, I don't know how to ask for money, you're gonna have to ask for money either way. You're gonna either have to ask for money on a private lending or you're gonna have to ask for money from the seller, basically. Right? Does everyone see that? Like either way, you're gonna have to do it. So you just got to figure out which way you want to do it. And maybe it's both. Maybe it's a mix of both. Okay. So we've already kind of talked about this part. So I want to go through, we've already found the break even. Perfect. Okay. Okay, here's where it gets a little more complicated. In this example, property value 200 grand, so we'll keep it the same. Mortgage balance is 120. Okay, repairs needed are zero. The seller wants $30,000 in walkaway money. The total purchase is 150. Okay, ignore the screen for a second. Can anyone tell me what they might want to do with that deal? Like what's kind of a direction you want to go with $30,000 walkaway money, right? For a 200K house. Is that a good sub two deal?
No.
No, the entry price is a little bit too high.
Okay, yeah, it's a little too high. Where
That's
where does it ideally need to be?
20,000 or lower.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So what can we do about that? How can we start thinking about this in a different way?
What if we gave them less than 30,000 up front, and then we made installments on the balance so they could get their 30,000 over a course of however long it takes?
Yeah. What does everyone else think about that? Any other thoughts? I want us to actually think about it versus me just like saying here's what to do. Because there's no right answer.
It's less cash up front, and it's time value
Mhm.
of money. So it's
That,
spreading it over.
there you go. That's right. Yeah. So in this example, something like taking over the mortgage of 120, right? Right here on the right. Cash at closing to the seller would be about 15 grand is what I would probably shoot for. 10 to 15, right? 20 like max. The remaining balance, you could make that over a monthly payment, probably 200 to 300 bucks a month, right? The nice thing about this though is like when you start going through this, you'll find that the seller financing is at 0% because we're not talking about interest rates. We're just talking about a payment to them. So it's an interest-free loan, right? So instead of you having to stick that 10, 15 grand out of your pocket or paying a lender to do it, it's like, again, who do you want to talk to? Do you want to raise private money? Or do you want to ask the seller to give it to you for 0% to solve their problem?
How likely are they to do that? Is it a type of, seller
hmm
that is willing to do seller financing? Like, why wouldn't they need the money?
Mm, that's a good question. So a lot of times it's this part can get a little complicated for me to explain because there's been sellers that I've worked with that have financed me over a 30-year term at 0% or 2% or so like I've gotten deals like that. But I think this is a little bit easier because it's not a huge amount. It's
Mhm.
like 10 or 15 grand. And this works really well. That's a really good question, actually, because it works for a seller that they need the 10 or 15 up front for a very specific reason. It's
Got
like
it.
I need the 10 because I have to buy this new car because my car got broke down and I have to pay off this other debt. It's like that's why I need it. But the other 15 I don't really need right now. I just would like to have that because I feel like I don't want to give my house away. That's I think kind of the mentality. So you're kind of trying to work with them on it. It's like, "Hey, I want to work with you to get you your number. Like you've lived in this house for 10 years. I appreciate the hard work you put into it. I'm not trying to disrespect you. So
Right.
like work with me and I'll work with you kind of thing." Yeah.
Meet them halfway, kind of.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, at
exactly.
30, you're giving them 15 up front. You'll pay them 15 over time.
Exactly. Yeah, and it probably won't take that long to pay them off.
Yeah.
You know, in this case, it'd be what, like 5 years, something like that, 5, 6 years. Okay. So how do we like have this conversation? First thing would be, okay, Julie, if I can get you 30,000 in walkaway money, do you feel like this would be the answer for you, or would you want to move forward today or sell me the house? However you want to ask that question is fine. They say yes. Okay. I think I can get you 30,000, but we'd probably need to do it a different way. What if I could get you some of the 30,000 at closing and then some later? Like, would something like that work for you? So it's like really simple. Like now that question is supposed to be a little vague on purpose. It's kind of like, what does that mean, some later? The goal is to get them to be like, well, maybe, or like, what does that mean? Or how would that work? Because if you have a seller that just says no, then it's like, okay, probably not the seller for you, right? You want someone to ask, like, how does that work? Or like, how long? Or like, what would that look like? Okay. If they give you one of those answers, then we're going to dig in. So we're going to say, well, it really is going to depend on a few factors, but maybe we just kind of start with like how much you're actually needing at closing. Like how much do you actually need to take care of X, Y, and Z that you mentioned that you wanted to take care of? Oh, I need at least $15,000. See, we're actually solving real problems now. Okay. So if I can get you 15,000 in closing, number four, that leaves us with Y to be paid over time. So 15. I mean, I guess like if we were to do that, we could do that over a monthly payment. So like, what do you feel like would be fair for a monthly payment? And just ask them because some people will be like, I don't know, 100 bucks, right? And then some people, well, actually, Cindy and Griffin will laugh at that. I don't know if Amir's on this. We have Amir on our team that got someone at what was the monthly amount? Like 80 bucks or 100 bucks or something? I don't
Yeah,
remember
it
what
was
it
a
was.
hundred bucks.
It was
It's
like
like I
100
could give
bucks,
you $100 a month.
100 bucks a month. Yeah. And it was like on like Yeah, I'm like, it was like a 30-year term or like 20-year term or something. Or no, initially it was. That's what it was. And then he switched to 100. That's right. So you
Yeah.
just never know what people are like cool with, right? So that's the fourth thing. Last one again, like you are structuring a 0% loan. And I think like the moment you start mentioning interest and like balloons and like things like that, like you start to really lose like your position in the deal. Because you start treating them like, oh, you're the bank and like this is like a really special thing versus like, hey, I'm just gonna get you some of the money over time. It's a very different conversation, right? So that's basically the end of it. I wanted to kind of keep it as short as possible, but also like really bring as much value as I could here. Let's kind of press pause. We have questions. It could be general questions on this. It could be questions about anything, or maybe you have like you want to kind of role play it or something like that, or maybe you have a deal. I don't know. So let's kind of
In
press
this
pause.
last example, were you going to hold the asset instead of sell it? You were going to hold it and rent it.
Hmm. So
Is
this
that
was
what you
actually a
typically
deal
do?
that this was a deal that was not like from our personal marketing. This was like one of Amir's friends that basically like he wanted help with the deal. So I'm not involved in that deal, so I'm not sure what their exit was.
Okay.
But on something like that, yeah, you could rent it, you could owner finance it. Yeah,
I
you
have a
could do.
question. My camera's messing up, so I can't turn it on. But I was gonna say, let's say you get those terms, a seller to agree to those terms. Could you, if you don't have capital for the down payment or anything, could you technically wholesale those terms to another investor who would like those terms?
Totally.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's also why we talk about like the 10%, because if you're going to wholesale it to someone, you got to know kind of where they're going to want to be too.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a good question. Yeah.
Do you typically try to like use the 70% rule, like when you're kind of comping or trying to get the value with the intention to possibly wholesale it? Like, do you kind of use that rule of thumb?
Like the 70%.
Yeah, like 70% minus repairs, kind of get you that price point, and then you
Yeah.
like kind of work off of that.
Hmm. Yeah. Generally, we try to start or at least get as close as possible to that. Yeah.
Okay.
And something that we've been doing a lot more recently, which has helped, and I think we're pretty good with our numbers. Like at this point, I mean, we get numbers wrong all the time because we're human, but I think we've gotten a lot better about comping. But something I still like to do is I like to have two or three buyers that I really trust that I'm friends with, that I know are solid, and I'll just send them the deal before I even get it and be like, "Hey, I'm negotiating this. I'm probably going to get it under contract. Like, where would you need to be?" And it's like
Oh,
really
that's a good
quick and
point.
dirty. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it
That brings
helps.
up another question.
Yeah.
Buyers, what do you do? So with like what you just mentioned, so you when you send to people, obviously you probably already have a relationship with these buyers, right? Are you sending
Hmm.
everything over and like, hey, even though it's not under contract yet, like, hey, I'm working on this, but here is the address and condition and everything.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm a really trusting person though. So if someone screws me one time, then you're out. But
Yeah.
until then, I try to give people the benefit of the doubt.
The reason I'm asking is I kind of did this. I'm doing the same thing right now with this one deal. It's like I reached out to the one guy that I did a deal with, and he wanted. I didn't put the address in yet because I don't have it under contract yet, and so,
Mm,
um, but he wanted the address, and I kind of gave him just the area and everything else with it. So I'm like, man, what do you usually do, or what's the best way to go about this? Because on
mm,
one end, you don't want to get cut out, like he possibly could go and try to reach out, but then it's like, I know he can close. We've done a deal together. So
mm.
I don't know him that well, but we've done a deal
Yeah, that's tough. That's tough if
together.
you don't know them like that.
Yeah.
Is there is there what do you think is keeping you from being able to just get under contract?
Well, we'll see today. We'll find out, since I
Yeah.
actually put in an offer. Sorry, I'm like super loud back there. Back there.
Oh, you're good.
Um, but I was a little hesitant, honestly, because as we discussed, we said like the ARV would be 180, right? And so
Mhm.
that's retail, that's fixed up. But current condition, we saw I pulled over around 130, 35. I've seen comps recently sell for that. And
Mm,
so, you know, and obviously I think they want the retail value price. And so, I was in doing the 70% rule. That's why I was asking you about that earlier because it came up like when I was doing the math, I was like, I should be offering like 90. I'm like, man, that is like super, super low. And this place
that's,
doesn't need too much work from what I can tell. Unless there's like unless there's something hidden. But just from looking at it from the face value, it didn't seem too bad. It didn't seem too far from the comps that sold at the as is price at that 130.
mm,
And so that's
I
what made me
see.
like, all right, well maybe I'll just do. We'll see where we're at on 110. But
Yeah,
um,
yeah. Hmm.
to be continued. I
Well,
may be reaching out
you
too
never
late. But
know. Yeah, you
yeah.
never know. And something that has helped me a lot, and this may not be for you, but maybe this is for other people in the group.
Hmm.
Um, I used to be really like worried about getting stuff under contract because I was like, I wanted to treat people well and I didn't want to disappoint them if something came up or something like that. And I wanted to make sure I had all my numbers right. And like, I mean, Griffin knows this now. It's like half the time now I'm like, let's just get under contract and then we'll just like figure it out. Because like, I mean, like worst case, it's like you get pictures from them the next day and then you're like, hey, this is not what I was expecting. Or like, hey, I just can't do it. And like doesn't mean you have to sit there for 2 weeks and like waste their time. That's not what I'm saying. And because we don't want to just throw stuff at the wall and like disappoint people all the time and like have them make decisions based off of them thinking we're going to close and we don't. Like that's not the reputation I want. But also, it's also a two-way door. It's like you can go under contract. That's why there's a due diligence period, you know? Happens all the time, even on the retail market. So it's like you're not a bad person for backing out after a day. So, or even renegotiating. You may get under contract at 110 and be like, "Hey, look, I ran my numbers, I think a little bit not conservatively. I think I'd probably need to be closer to 95 or something like that. Like, is that even worth having a conversation about, you know?"
Yeah. And then the second thing is so there is a mortgage on this house, on this
Okay.
property. So, I don't mind rather maybe going subject to, but I haven't gotten to really find out the pain point of, of what I'm looking for. This deal is a probate deal. The sister, who I'm working with, her sister passed away. And so they have it. It's gone through probate. And so she's kind of been sitting on it, but they have been paying a mortgage. So that's one thing I mentioned when I made my offer this morning. I was like, hey, this will help knock out that payment. You guys don't have to worry about that. We can get under contract and close. Just trying to hit
Yeah.
on that because again, who wants to be paying on something when you're not living that you didn't even that you inherited, just to keep it out of, you know, being, cast you on taxes or going to foreclosure. So I do know that's a pain point, but I don't know, like, I haven't had the conversation. Hey, what are you looking to walk away with, right? So I'm glad you kind of talked about that. That kind of gave me some tips of to kind of talk on if that ever comes up.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but but yeah, we'll see.
Cool, dude. Keep me updated. What else we got?
I got a question.
What's up, dude?
Yeah.
Oh, wait.
When you have this situation where you get something under contract and you end up getting it like a little bit too high, how do you approach the seller and have that discussion?
Say that one more time. Sorry.
Yeah, so let's say you get a house under contract at 200,000, and
Uh-huh.
then you later on you discover that you would have needed to get it at 180.
Hmm.
How do you have that discussion to like reopen negotiations with the seller?
So it kind of depends why. Like, was it the repairs or was it that you just ran your numbers wrong on the ARV? Hopefully it's usually the repairs because like hopefully we're being conservative enough based off the ARV that we're good on the front end. Um, but if it's repairs, then what I would do is like first thing is if you get an inspection report, like I would send them the inspection report and be like, hey, I'd love to talk about this a little bit later. I just wanted you to see this. You could kind of look over what they found, like that kind of thing, right? And then your goal is probably to have like 2 to 3 like main things that you're going to talk about on the report because like obviously there's a lot of stuff and they're going to look at it and see all of the things. So the goal isn't to beat them up about the house, but it's like to look at those big ticket items and be like, hey, like these things were not mentioned. And like I'm sure like you seem like a pretty honest person, and like I don't think you were trying to keep this from me. But at the same time, like the price we agreed to was based off of like the condition that I knew, and obviously that has changed. And so like based off that, I can't do this price. And so like, is that the least you would take? And then you're just like back into that conversation.
Okay. And then
Yeah.
at this case where you just, you messed up and you ran your numbers wrong, you're a little bit too aggressive. It's just like,
Yeah.
hey, I'm sorry, I got to back out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like at that point, it's like, yeah, like I can't do this price. And so if they're not willing to negotiate, then it's like, it's almost like them backing out. Just like, hey, sorry. So yeah, good question. I hate renegotiating. It's like my least favorite thing in the entire world. I hate doing it. Some people love that, which is kind of, I don't know. If you're on this call and you like it, I'm not going to talk bad about you, but
You're
there's some people
verified psychopath.
like it's like the people that like look forward to it, like they'll like wait the day before closing and they're like, haha, I'm going to get them. It's like, dude, you're so slimy.
Like the people who like watching other people take
Yeah.
boulder plunges.
Dude, there's a company here. I'm not going to mention the name, but there's a company here in Tennessee, and I had lunch with someone the other day that used to work for them, and he was like super high up in their company. And he left because he talked about like their process like was that. Like they would like draw it out, and like they're one of the biggest companies in Tennessee, like for home buyers. And
Yeah,
he was
that's
like,
shady.
"Yeah, dude." And like they would do things like another thing that he said they did was this guy really like needed to close like a few days early.
Mm.
And they were like 2 weeks away from this. And he was like, we easily could have done it. But like they demanded like another like 5 grand off the price to do it. And like this guy, like his family was like sick, like one of them had cancer. I'm like, y'all are like the scum of the earth. Like,
That's bad.
that's real.
Yeah.
It's really
What
bad.
happened? Whatever happened to just doing right by your customers?
Apparently a lot.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So, anyways, what else we got? That's a good question, man. Any other thoughts?
Nobody has one. I got another one.
Cool. Please.
In some of the examples you use, let's say you need to bring, well, let's talk about what the seller needs, like to walk away, or walk away money, as you put it.
Hmm.
Well, can you talk a little bit about like, I mean, I guess you kind of does. It depends on their situation, right? Are they moving to a new place? Are they just need to get rid of it? But in that same example, though, like, what if you don't have the funds to provide for the walk away money? What would you do? Would you go to like a hard money? Would you try to, like, what does that structure look like?
Mm.
Like, say
Well,
there's a deal, and say the numbers work out. Okay, they need this, I can do this, and the numbers still shake out. But like, what if you don't have that walk away? What does that
mm.
look like?
Yeah, well, I think it's going to depend on a couple things. Like, is it a cash deal where there's walk away,
Hmm.
where you're talking about walk away? If it is, then it's like, you're probably going to have to get a lender already, right? Or you're going to wholesale
Hmm.
it, and
Hmm.
then they get their walk away money, and you didn't have to put any out. So like that's the first option. But if it's like a creative deal where it's like sub two or seller finance, it's like your only three options are you have the money, you raise the
Okay.
money, or you wholesale it, and someone else pays the money.
Okay. Let's say in the sub two option, the second option, and let's say you had to, would you say go to hard money or raise the money?
Mhm.
So what is that structure? What would that look like? Is it something where such and such gives me a loan at, I don't know, we'll call it 8% or something like that for that money? Obviously it's high, but it's hard money. And then you just kind of work out your numbers, I guess.
Like I don't know. Oh, never mind. I can't share my computer. I was gonna show you. I have a board over here in my room that has like
Uh,
all the numbers for like properties and portfolio and stuff like that.
yeah.
And on one of them, I'm looking right now, and I have long-term private money, which is like I have one for 35 grand, I have one for 20, I have one for 50, one for 30, one for 30, and one for 35. So like those are all different rentals that I've raised in like second position. So like I went to someone like Kelsey maybe, and I'm like,
Hmm.
hey Kelsey, like I got this property sub two. I know you're an awesome lender, and even though you probably don't do second position loans, I don't know. We're friends, so maybe she does one with me. I don't know. Because we're cool, right? I got you drinks the other day. We're all hanging out. We're good. Okay. So, anyways, that's where that would look like. So it's like, hey, Kelsey, maybe I need 30 grand for this, like, and I'll pay you 10 to 12%, over the next however many years, whatever you need it to be for it to cash flow. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So essentially, like you said, it's either you putting it up yourself or you have a third party, whether it be private money, hard money. And
Hmm.
I guess, I'll have to work in, okay, I know I have the payment for my walkaway money that I gotta account for. And obviously if it's a sub two deal, you gotta account for the existing mortgage you're taking over.
That's right.
Um, okay. And it's
Yeah.
obviously, like I said, if it doesn't work where you got this payment, right? Then it might not be a deal. If
Mm,
that's an option you have to do as far as getting like a third party.
totally. Yeah, and that's why like I kind of broke down like in a in an ideal world, you would make it less complicated for the seller and you would always just do sub two and that's it. But at the same time, I'd rather pay 0% than 12% to a lender. And so that's kind of a different way of being able to do it again. I'm just going to keep reminding everybody of that because it really is the same thing. It's just a different interest rate. So you get to decide how you want to do it. And a lot of times what I've found, and this is like another kind of nugget that I've learned over the last like 2 years of like going from price to then terms is sometimes when you start mentioning these kind of things, every once in a while we have a seller that just says like, I don't want to deal with all that. That's pretty rare. Honestly, if they're motivated, a lot of times they just are like, yeah, that's great. But you're gonna have some people that are like, I don't really want to do that. And then you can dig in and be like, well, like what kind of has you maybe hesitating about it? And you can talk about it. But if they're like, hey, at the end of the day, I just don't want the loan in my name, then you can say, hey, look, I hear you. This is just the way that I can get you $30,000. But I could do all cash, it's just not at this price. So, like, is that really the least you would take? And I've had people drop like 20, 30 grand after switching back. So sometimes like that's kind of like the final swing that they need to hear. So it's not like a one-way door where you go creative and then you're stuck there. Like you can always kind of go back and forth.
Yeah, I guess it just again this depends on the situation. So many variables in there. But that's good
Totally.
to know. I'm glad you explained that.
Yeah.
Because
Great
somewhere in
question.
my mind and with this same deal, I'm like, okay, maybe I can do, if they are hard pressed on the price point that they want, okay, we can do that. And then maybe I can take over the existing and then try to come up with whatever walk away money they need, right? So that's kind of where this question is coming from. Just
Yeah,
and
totally.
yeah,
And if you want to text me too, like at some point, whatever, if you make that
yeah,
offer and they're not comfortable, whatever, just text me and I can
yeah,
text you like the
okay,
pitch and all that stuff if you want to just copy it, whatever. Yeah.
yeah.
Cool,
Oh,
bro.
also, I might have a deal for you too. I need to send. We'll have to talk about it. A friend of mine, he's got
Hey.
a place that, yeah, we'll talk.
Heck yeah, dude. I'd love to talk about it. That'd be
Yeah,
awesome. Thanks, man.
yeah.
What else we got? Everyone's all good?
No, I got one more.
Yes, Alex, let's
Yeah,
go.
when you're looking at buying a house subject to and holding it as a rental, do you
Hmm.
have like a target or a rule of thumb for how much it should cash flow each month?
Dude, I'm so bad about this. I get overzealous and I'm getting better about this. But when I first got started, I was like 2.5% rate, 3% rate. I'm so cool. I'm gonna buy this and I can like tell everyone I got this rate and like I don't know. It made me feel good about myself. And then I had like a $10,000 repair like every like 5 months because I own these rentals and I'm like, this is so stupid. So don't be me. That'd be the first piece of advice I could give you. Um, Second piece of advice is, I mean, I think like kind of the standard like cash on cash is like 10% or something like that. I mean, it's pretty hard to find. It really is. Unless you're doing like a Burr deal or something like that, where you're
And what do
putting
you mean by cash on cash?
cash on cash is like how much money you put into the deal compared to how much you get back every year.
I
So
see. Okay.
if you spend $30,000 to get into the deal and you get 3,000 a year back in cash flow, that would be what, a 10% cash on cash return?
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
But that's probably kind of hard right now because prices are high and
It's tough. It's
yeah.
tough. That's why I
Which
like
way
the
are
owner
rents going?
financing model more than I do the
Yeah.
rentals, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because you
Well,
can
it's
be
also
in the
nice
deal
too
for no
because
money,
then yeah, you can get it in the deal for no money, and then also
cash flow like
some,
way more.
yeah, cash flow is easier, and then if something comes up, you're on the hook for repairing it.
Totally. We're under financing two, maybe three actually right now. And I love like that's been kind of my commitment over the second half of this year is to do more of them. So it's
I have
kind of a
one more question.
distraction for me because there's so much to do like when you go to sell it sometimes. So that's why I haven't done it because I've been more focused on like our actual business and like making sure that everyone on the team can make what they need to make as well. And it's like, I don't know, it's kind of trying to figure that out. That balance is tough, but I have someone now that is pretty awesome that will sell them for me, which I'm excited about. So I'm gonna kind of give that a test run. Yeah. What else?
I have one question. I was gonna say that I've been to like RIA meetings in my local market, and I've heard like the guys who teach the class, some of them are like completely against subject to because they're like they always bring up some act called the St. Germain's Act, I believe it's called or something, and they're like they said they won't touch it because they're scared about the callbacks or something. I just want to know if you could like touch on that a little bit and how you could be safe from it.
Yeah. Um, so the the Saint Germain Act, well, maybe I'll start here. So anytime you purchase a property subject to the existing lien or mortgage, there's going to be a due on sale clause, which is kind of what I think you're referring to, and in these mortgages, which states that if you transfer title or really any beneficial interest without notifying the lender or getting approval from the lender, I guess more specifically, that they have the right to call the loan due, but not the obligation to call it due. So they could call the loan, right? It's their right to do so, but it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to. So that's kind of the first distinction I would make. Um, the second thing I would tell you from like real world experience, like we've done, I think at this point over 115 or 120 of these, and like we've had two called. I think one or two, I'm not sure. The second one will be one that I didn't own. So that's a pretty small percentage. It's like what, 1%? So I don't know if it's something like to really, really worry about. What I would do though is like understand what it means, which I just kind of explained it, but we could always talk more if you want to hop on a phone call, like one on one and talk about it. We could do that. But also just understanding like having some people in your corner that can help you if it comes up. That's
Okay.
it. You want to make
Awesome.
sure that you understand that there's things you can do about it. That's all I'm trying to say. And I could get into that like on a later call for sure.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah, for sure. I think Saint Germain Act too, to answer that part of the question. I'm not gonna act like I'm an expert in it because I'm not. But from my understanding, what that is designed to do is um, protect homeowners that basically have either like passed away or they put it into a trust and they want to make sure that the person that's inheriting the property is not going to have the loan called due. Because that's not like fair to them. That's like family, right? And so like they're like that's like a protected group of people is that. So that doesn't apply to a normal investor. It's not the same thing. At least it's not supposed to. I mean, because I have friends personally that have put properties into a trust because they talk about the whole Saint Germain Act and they've had loans called due. So trust does not prevent that. Um, it does make it a lot harder for the lender to see what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah. What did you do when you get called back? Did you like sell the house immediately or something, or did you have like private money or someone help you like pay it off or something?
Yeah, so there's a couple ways you can go about it. One, you could sell the property. Two, you could refinance the property. Three, you could pay off the property using a loan, like you said.
Uh,
Four, you could deed the property back to the borrower, which would appease the bank. That's one of the options they give you to resolve the situation. And then they could deed it back to you, You could just play that game, right? You could play chicken that way.
Tennis.
I mean, people do that all the time. Or you can deed it to them and you could do like a lease option back to you, or you could do like a contract for deed, or you can do like all these different types of things. But yeah.
Man, that's awesome. That made it sound like I'll get arrested or something. I've been scared about subject too, man. So that's nice to
They
hear.
might come arrest you. I don't know what they're on, but I like your energy, bro. I saw you in school earlier. It made me happy. So I'm glad you're here. Hey, and also if you want, shoot me a DM in school. I'll text you my number. Maybe we can talk.
Okay, bet. Sounds good.
Cool, bro. Any final questions or thoughts or
Yeah. What do you do in a situation where you're buying a home out of foreclosure, subject to,
Mhm.
and the arrears maybe by itself exceeds that like 10% uh, entry cost? I don't
Gosh,
know.
that's
Maybe
a
that's too
really good
high.
question. No, that's a really good question. Because that's something we wrestle with like all the time. I don't know. Griffin, do you have any thoughts on that? If the arrears are too high on a deal that's in foreclosure, like a subject to deal, it's like how do you know when it's too high? Because you can't really control that.
That is kind of a good question. I guess back to the 10% rule,
Mhm.
I think that's typically how I look for it. So if it's like a $300,000 property and then they owe like 17K in arrears and I want to assign it, then I'm
Mhm.
thinking like, okay, how much is their walk away in the closing costs? Let's say that's $5,000 total. So then we're sitting at 23, which only leaves us about 7K assignment. So
Mhm.
that's kind of how I think about it. Like if the walk away closing costs and the arrears surpass the 10% rule, then I'm like, it's not really a deal. You can't really do much with that. Or if it's
Okay.
close, like even if it's like 25, it's like, okay, do you want to spend all this time postponing the auction, getting this closed, finding a buyer to make 5 grand? I don't know.
Yeah.
So I think it's good to refer back to that 10% rule.
Okay.
Yeah, totally. And I think another thing to add on to that, if you didn't say this, is like sometimes sometimes I'm willing to go over that 10% and I have if I'm getting a disproportionate amount of equity in return. So like let's say $300,000 house, $300,000 house, no repairs. Cash, where do we need to be roughly? Let's say 210. I don't know.
Mhm.
So we need to be at 210. Okay. Let's say with the mortgage and arrears and all of that, the purchase price is like the mortgage and all that's like 210 exactly. And then they want 10 grand. It's like, okay, let's also assume maybe the arrears are like 30. So I don't know, right? So 30 plus 10, so I'm in it for 40, right? So it's like I'm paying 40 grand to get into a $300,000 house. But like really, I'm pretty close to that 70% mark. Like my purchase price is 220 or 230. It's like, okay, I'm exchanging 10 grand for another like however much at equity. So that's kind of how I would like look at it too. It's like sometimes it's worth it, and I've done that at times, especially if you know you're going to owner finance it, right? Because like that equity is real. Like if I owner finance it and I create a new mortgage, it's like they're going to have a mortgage with me for 300 or whatever the number is, and I'm going to have this mortgage of like 220. That's like an 80K spread, right? And you basically spent an extra 10 grand to get that additional 60, 70, 80. All right. So that's kind of how I would think about it. You could also raise that additional 10 too. Yeah. The mistake I've made is putting too much of my money in deals, my own money. It's stupid. When you start making a little bit of money, you do that and then you realize how stupid you are again.
That is a good point as well, because if you do have equity in the deal also, like you're more than likely going to be able to assign it and maybe go over that 10% rule.
Yeah.
Like if someone has to put in 30K, but they're walking into an equity spread of 50K, it's like they're more than likely to go over that 10% if you're asking them, because it's not like all of their money is just going to a wholesale fee.
Hmm. That's right. It's a really
Yeah.
good way to put it.
It's like putting your money into an investment where that money doesn't disappear. It's like built into the deal.
Yeah, yeah. It's like how many of y'all, that's such a good point, dude, that it's not just going to a wholesale fee. That's true. 'Cause I
Yeah.
think some people think that. It's like how many of y'all would trade 10 grand if you knew right now that I would give you 50 back? You know? Now,
Or
some
even
people,
like,
yeah.
sorry.
No, no, go
Or
for it.
even like you put in 10 grand and 10 grand is in the deal because then you're making cash flow every month of $500
Mm-hmm.
and like you just traded 10K for it and it's still there.
That's right. That's so true. That's an even better way of thinking about it than what I just said. Because if you put 10 grand, like let's say this is really, I really enjoy this conversation. Hopefully y'all are getting something from this because this helped me a lot when I was able to talk with people like through some of this stuff. Because then like when I'm talking to a seller, I'm like, oh wait, we talked about this, or maybe I could leave an extra 5, 10 in the deal. And here's why. Because we did talk about cash on cash return, right? So if I know on the back end that my exit strategy is going to be a wrap or an owner finance, and let's say I think I can cash flow, and we can maybe have another call where we talk about like how to calculate this stuff. But if you think you're going to cash flow 1,000 a month on a deal, which is very doable, by the way, um, then at the end of the day, if I'm leaving 10 grand in the deal, right, then it's like, what's my cash on cash return? I put in 10 and I get back how much every year? Because I get 1,000 a month. 12.
1200, yeah, so it's 120%.
Yeah, that's a really good cash on cash return.
Yeah.
A lot better than stock market, right? Or
Oh
whatever.
yeah.
So yeah, that would make sense. But I don't love doing that still. It's not, I'm not a fan if you don't have to. Any other thoughts? Ben, I don't know if we've connected before. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but where are you located at? What area?
I'm in Nashville. Yeah, I
Oh,
guess I recently joined the school, but yeah, I'm
cool.
in Nashville. So
Nice, dude.
I live in Donaldson. So
Okay, awesome. Are you tell me about like kind of where you are in real estate? Like, are you getting started? You've been doing it a while? Like,
I'm getting started. I mean, I've done a lot of work to my house and like kind of getting it to the point where like I'm ready to like can move on from that, and so I'm looking to kind of do some deals uh,
cool.
and to I enjoy doing the work too. So like I
Yeah,
want to try to get into some flips and stuff, and
nice.
my toes wet right now.
You're pretty handy.
Yeah, so
Dude, I am not, bro. I had to hang some pictures up on my wall the other day, and I was like freaking out. I'm like, this is not good. I'm like, I'm supposed to be the one that's handy, like doing flips and stuff. Like, I'm not much good besides talking to people in numbers. So, that's cool, man. Well, I live in like Bellevue, like West Nashville area. So if you ever want to connect, shoot me a message on in the community. I'll text you. We can get together, get coffee or something.
yeah, for sure.
Cool, man.
Thanks.
Awesome. Anything else before we head out? Appreciate
I
y'all
have a
spending
quick
time.
question.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, no, go ahead.
Okay, since there's a couple more on here that are like kind of brand new. I'm not brand new, but I'm brand new to actually like taking action and getting started.
Yeah.
What would be like your top three things if you were just like starting from scratch? What would you just focus on pulling a list, starting the calls, and trying to work the people through the pipeline to get them ready to actually make a move and then just start reaching out to Evan and Kelsey and figuring out how you're going to make this deal work?
Mm-hmm. That's a good
Would that be like
question.
your first step?
Oh my gosh. Okay. First step. First step is I would say first step is to pick an exit strategy that you're going to stick with for like at least like 3 months and like do
Ugh,
that.
it's not
I
what I
know it's
wanted to
not
hear,
fun.
Evan. It's not what I wanted to hear because
I
that's
know.
the hardest part for me is to figure out what it is, like what we actually want to do with this. So then I was like, you know what? I'm not even going to worry about that. I'm just going to acquisition. That's all I'm going to do. I'm just going to start calling people, and then I'm going to figure it out.
That's fair. That's fair. Okay, I guess my question then would be like if I gave you a deal tomorrow that was like, hey, you can make 40 on the flip, but you got to put 70 into it. It's like, would you take it down as a flip tomorrow? Because if that's a really scary like yes, then I would say maybe you're not ready for that yet. Like that's how I would look at it.
Yeah, I think maybe that coffee that we're gonna grab with you will be able to like try to
I
figure
don't mean to put
out.
you on the spot. I'm saying like that's how I would talk to myself. I'd be like, okay, am I ready for this? Because if not, if you're going to be doing this like for a while, like and not just like 3 months or 6 months, like you're going to get so good at this that like finding a good flip is not going to be a problem for you. And
Right.
so I know it's like and maybe it's kind of hard to see right now because like I remember being in that spot where like I had never done a deal. And I was
Yeah.
like, every deal I wanted to keep and flip because I'm like, I'm never going to be able to recreate this or like, how am I going to? And then it's like then all of a sudden, like we have 13 or 14 under contract right now as a team. So you go from having three or four at a time to this number where it's like, that doesn't even feel like real. And I'm not even bragging because like some of them
Right.
may not close and like problems come up and it's like, whatever. I'm just
So,
saying it happens.
question. uh, Let's just say I took the approach of right now I'm going to just really focus on wholesaling.
Yeah.
Just hypothetically, would then your first step be building the buyer? Because you mentioned a while back that like when you're running numbers, you reach out to a few trusted buyers. And I really wasn't sure where you were going with that. Is that just to double check your numbers or because you might be wholesaling that deal, so you're already marketing it out to some end buyers or so like do I go ahead and just start building a buyers list and then focusing on acquisitions and just talking to people because I haven't even been on the phones having these conversations with people. I've got all the scripts, I know everything, but I haven't actually been making these calls. So like I feel like I
Yeah.
really need to kind of just dive in and start doing that. But yeah, I mean, I guess I guess to narrow it down a little bit, build a buyer's list, build a list of private money lenders that I can work with, have Evan on speed dial. I mean, are these the first steps, or do I just not care about any of the back end stuff and I just dive in and start
Yeah. So,
calling
okay,
people?
first step is definitely figure out an exit strategy and stick with it, even though it's painful.
Okay.
So I would say I would tell you to start with wholesaling. That's what I would say. Um, that would be my first step. Second step, you don't have to listen to that by the way. You can do what you want. But second step would be, I do think that's not a bad idea to I would say find two at least, maybe three, and that's it. No more. 2 to 3 buyers that are willing to buy mostly around all of Tennessee, or at least where you're planning on marketing. So I don't know where you want to market, but like that would probably make that based off of the buyers or where you want to be. So like for me, I buy all across Tennessee besides
So,
Memphis.
so you're one
That's
of my
it.
buyers.
Yeah, there you go. I have another guy named Patrick Miller who like I connect with that he buys all across Tennessee.
Perfect.
And then there's a guy named Josh that I work with that buys in like most areas. Like, but he buys kind of more Chattanooga. But like you start getting these people, and I just work with the same people. Honestly, it's just easier. And then so that's your second step. Third step is pick a list that has a specific problem. So pick a list that has a specific problem. This could be foreclosures.
Mhm.
This could be probates. This could be tired landlords. I would just pick one and I would just get really good at that conversation because every one of those conversations is going to be a little bit different.
Right. And so I know I do have lots of ideas for lists based off the course that I've purchased and the millions of, the hours I've put in of podcasts and
Yeah.
YouTubes and Googling. Um, Most cost-effective way to find those lists. I think doesn't PropStream provide lists, but that's a cost. So actually going to, I think Griffin or somebody gave and was that a free site to actually go to pull those lists or
It's a paid site niche.
I know PropStream is, and so I can't find, but I can find like I actually have access to the MLS, so I could actually also pull like absentee owners and FISBOs and things like that off of the MLS. But to narrow it down to really pick the distressed properties, you're looking at bankruptcies, pre-foreclosures, divorce,
hmm
death, probate, all that. Okay, so
Yeah.
where do all y'all find those lists again? Aside from PropStream?
You can find them on like niche data, however you want to
Okay.
pronounce that word. Um, And then that's a pretty good site. You could also get it from ListSource. I used to use ListSource a lot. I don't know if they're any good anymore. And
Okay.
then there's like a foreclosures daily is what it's called. But they don't even actually do foreclosures in Tennessee. Ironically, or they at least last time I checked, they didn't, but they do like everything else.
Okay. Well, that's a good three
Yeah.
things that I can fool around with.
Totally.
Okay.
I would do
So
that.
pick
And then it's
list
like you
with
get your
specific
list. Yeah, you
and then
pick
just
your
start
list
calling.
and then just start calling and texting. So call and text them all and
So
just
you would
practice
advise
doing it.
against direct mailing,
Yes.
or would you do both?
I don't do direct mail.
You don't do, okay, you hear so many different things of people have like all my success came from direct mailing, and then you talk to someone else the very next day, and it's like I got nowhere with direct
Uh,
mailing. I just cold call, like, and it's like, well, should I do both then? Because I've done some direct mailing for property management, and I mean, it was crickets, and I'm like, how much money do I really want to put into this?
I've told you my story, right?
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
re-listened to it the other day on one of the earlier calls. I'm going back through the calls because there's
Okay.
quite a few that I missed.
Yeah.
And I heard your story again, and
Yeah.
yeah, so it's
So
encouraging.
I do think that direct mail can be a nice supplement to your outbound efforts. So if you're cold calling and texting, and then you say, hey, I'm Jenny with Lovewell. That's like, oh wait, Lovewell was the company that with the heart on the mail that had sent me. They start kind of putting the dots together. Or sometimes people go to your website based off the mail, or you could be like, hey, I actually sent you a piece of mail. It had like the big heart on the mail. I had sent you that like 2 weeks ago. I don't know if you remember that, but anyways, and then you can kind of get into it. It's like, oh, there's some common. So I think it could be a nice supplement, but I think it's kind of tough to. I know people that do it do well, but it's just not something I guess I do well.
Yeah, I think Jenny, if anything, I would replace that with door knocking. So like cold calling and text and door knocking are the two biggest things. And I think for a while, like I was kind of in the same boat of like I wanted to know everything and learn so much, but like I would highly recommend just diving in. Like you're in this point where you want to learn so much and you want to figure everything out before you do it, but you just got to dive in. Like
Hmm.
that's my number one piece of advice that I would give you because all of these questions and you're going to learn the most through actually having these conversations.
Hmm.
So I would just do it and you're going to figure out like, okay, I don't want to wholesale
Yeah.
anymore. I don't want to call agents. I don't want to call this or whatever, but you just got to
Yeah.
call.
Yeah.
Okay.
You just
And
got to
then,
start.
so, yeah, I agree with you because I've just been going round and round and learning and learning. And, at what point I like the only thing else that I need to learn is the actual hands-on doing it. Like
For
I
sure.
know what I'm talking about. I know what all y'all are. I'm tracking with what everybody is saying. I just need to actually take action. But so I've got the four steps, and then so kind of back to what I had originally said of once I actually get some leads that are turning into, that we're actually doing this, we're going under contract at that point just I mean really mentorship. I can't just go blind. I've got to have somebody kind of walk me through my first couple, and I also need some funding. Oh, funding. So let's take it back. So if I am wholesaling, I've heard this before, do I need to have proof of funds from like one of my private or hard money lenders to wholesale? Like, I feel like ethically, I heard somebody say you can't go into a wholesale deal if you don't actually have the funds to buy that property yourself, even though your intent and you're disclosing your intent the whole way is to actually sell your rights to the contract to the end buyer. You still have to have the funds, or you're basically committing fraud by saying you have the funds to purchase this property, even though you're not, and you don't. Has anyone heard that?
I've heard people say that before. I'm not going to self-incriminate, but I do think I do think there's a difference in like you personally having the funds or like you having access to the funds.
Right. Which is where I think that this particular very popular podcast from a wholesaler, and that
Uh-huh.
is his pretty much his main exit strategy is wholesaling, and he loves wholesaling and he promotes it and he wants to teach it in the most ethical way.
Yeah.
He says you need to have your proof of funds. So if you don't actually have those funds, you need to have the hard money lender provide you with the proof of funds so that you have that basically in your back pocket saying, I've got the funds, even though my intent is to sell my rights in this contract and I'm not actually intending to be the buyer, but I've got
Mhm.
the funds. It's just, it might not be my funds. So,
Oh, I see.
yeah, so that was another thing is like, okay, so when I'm making these connections with these private money lenders, because I've got a couple connections and I wrote down Kelsey's information as well. It's like,
Kelsey's the best. I would
is
just use her.
yeah, is it crazy for me to say, hey, I'm wanting to wholesale. Can I get your proof of funds? Like, you know what I'm saying? Because I didn't like, how do I ask a hard money lender for their proof of funds to do wholesale deals when I'm not even going to actually need that funding for a wholesale deal unless I decide to actually buy it and then I would take a hard money loan out. You know, that's kind of a weird question. So I just didn't know if anybody had come across that
Jenny,
yet.
I'm
Yes.
gonna jump in real quick because it's actually quiet here for a minute. I'm outside, but I can get you a proof of funds letter. That's not a
Okay.
problem. I mean, the
Perfect.
barrier to entry for a hard money loan is non-existent. So anybody can get a
Okay.
hard money loan, and I have no problem writing you a proof of funds letter.
Perfect.
That's not a problem.
That is great to hear. Thank you very much. I've got your information, so I'm going to be connecting with you. Okay, perfect. So then, I mean, that was easy. Answered that question. So yeah, start calling, get clients, get under contract, call Evan, call Kelsey, and my life changes and I'm a real estate investor. Is that how it goes?
Sadly, it's sadly, I think it's probably more simple than that. Yeah. Um,
Really?
yes, definitely. And I think it's
So
like it's
I'm
tough because we're
overcomplicating it. He's
yes.
laughing because I do this in every area
It's
of
okay.
life.
Hey, can I be honest with you? I do too.
Do you? Okay.
I'm much more of an overcomplicator thinker than you
An
think.
overthinker. Like I just like I can
I've
know
thought
something so
through,
well and then I can think so hard about it for 24 hours that I have no idea what to do next.
yep. I thought about real estate for 2 years before I did anything.
Yeah, I'm like 2 years in to this whole
Yeah.
investing journey
Yeah.
without
It's
having called a client, really. I mean,
yeah,
a
yeah,
few,
and
I've
it's
talked to a lot
hard.
of people, but
That's the thing that people don't talk about, honestly. And that's why I love doing these calls because I want it to be like a safe space where people can be honest about like, hey, I'm overthinking, or hey, maybe I'm scared to do this, or maybe, hey, maybe this makes me anxious. Cause like I was terrified to like call anybody. And I did all these other things to like make me feel like I'm doing stuff when I kind of wasn't.
yeah.
And it was really just hurting me at the end of the day because like I knew deep down I wasn't doing it, the things I needed to do. But it's like kind of my way of like being like, well, it's okay because I did some work. And then, so I think that like do the thing like I would say even like tomorrow. Like here's the advice I would give myself really starting out. If you broke it down into one thing, it's pick the thing tomorrow that I can do, that I'm also willing to do, that I know will move my business forward. So that may be I'm going to text one person on this list tomorrow. It may not even be call. Could you agree to do that tomorrow? Do you think that's something you could do? Text one person tomorrow? So I
Hmm.
think if you can take that step and then be like, okay, I did that. Do I want to text another person today or do I just want to do one? I don't know. That's up to you. Maybe I just want to do one. But you're probably more likely to do two.
Right.
Versus if
Now
you
that you've
just
done
think
the
about
work.
where you are now, then it's like you're probably going to be at zero. And so that's what I would recommend. I mean, I've done things before, like stuff that is embarrassing to admit, honestly, but I'll admit it because maybe it'll help you. Um, like I've done things where I've like called people and I was so scared to answer the phone that I would just mute my phone and let it sit there for a second. And they would hang up because I'm like, at least I called. Like it was a first step for me. And I called. And then so like maybe a rule is like I'm gonna call all these people, and the rule is I don't have yeah, exactly. I don't have to say anything, but I at least have to call 10 people. Okay, so then you call, okay, you get through five people and you don't say anything and they just sit there and they're like, hello, hello. At some point, you're going to be like, do I really want to waste time sitting here calling five people not saying anything? Maybe I'll just say hi. Hey, what's going on? You know what I mean? And then it starts removing the fear and like the overcomplication. It's like, all right, at least I'm here, you know? I don't know if that helps at all. You just get out of your head.
Yeah, that was really helpful. And I like that you broke it down by steps because I'm very much like a list bullet point person. And
Yeah.
so I knew all of this, but I needed y'all to tell me all of
You
this. And
got
so
this,
I
Jenny.
feel a lot, I feel
We're
better
here.
about it.
We're here for you. Let me know about that person you text tomorrow.
Okay,
All right,
thanks.
cool. Anything else, y'all? All right. Thank y'all for being on here. Thanks for taking time out of your Wednesday. It means a lot. And hopefully it was helpful. I'll talk to y'all soon.
Great meeting.
Take care, everybody. Thanks, Evan.
Yeah. Thank y'all.